Hello, Manulek. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you, Lakeisha?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here with you to celebrate 10 years for Luke's Taylor Tutoring. First, I want to talk to you a little bit about what it feels like to reach that 10-year mark.
It feels very good. When I first started out, I didn't even think it'd go like this far. To be honest, I was doing it more for fun.
Okay.
But like keeping up for 10 years for me is just like it went beyond my expectations.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you got started.
How I got started. So I've always been tutoring like throughout like high school and stuff, but I never really charged for it. I played soccer at my university, which is UOIT, which is now known as Ontario Tech University. And when I was on the bus, I'd help out some of my teammates. I took kinesiology, so I did well with the sciences and the math. And some of my teammates, like we have to hit a certain grade average to play.
Okay.
So like we would drive from like Durham region to Windsor, which is like 4 hour, 3 hour drive.
Yeah.
So we have to study and do our work then. So that's kind of how I started doing it. I started helping them, and then they started like doing well in their classes. So that's kind of like where it started out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what kept you motivated?
Seeing seeing how it impacted people. Like some people would be struggling a lot, and it'd be like their number one stress in life. Like, hey, I need to pass this course to get to this next course, to get to this next course, to get to my future job.
Yeah.
So just being able to go in there and they knew I was gonna be able to help them out. That's like what really kept me motivated, because I was like, okay, at least I'm going somewhere where I'm really appreciated. Like I just knew whenever I go there, like, I'm gonna feel appreciated, and I can actually help out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what kind of students did you work with? I know you said people on your team, but once you started, like as a company, what kind of students were you working with?
Yeah, so eventually when people outside of my team started figuring out at the campus, it worked well because I would just tutor students on campus, and then we'd go and travel for soccer. So students would be like university students, which then got into high school students and some elementary students.
Okay.
And then sometimes people who are in their career and they need to learn how to do certain stuff. So like learn Excel, for instance. Yeah, it started to like really grow out from there.
Okay, nice. So it started to be more than just tutoring then. There was like programming involved in order for you to be able to teach Excel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What kind of programs did you run?
We ran like finance programs eventually. Like there's Excel, finance programs, English literacy programs, like for people who English is their second language.
Okay.
So I started to like, once my capacity got reached, I started to bring on other people, where I was just like, okay, look, I can't work with all these people.
Right.
So I started hiring people from the campus, and I gave them like a caseload or a number of students to work with.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So where have you noticed the most growth in yourself and this company?
Patience was the biggest growth in myself.
Okay.
I would like to say I was a patient individual, but when you're working with someone where you know the answer and you're trying to help them get there, it's like you need to show the utmost patience and understanding of where they're at. Because if you give off any negative energy, it can completely shut that person out. Where the company grew the most, when we started opening our doors to all kinds of students. So for me, I was good with like math and science, not so much English. So when I started to bring in people who can do the stuff that I couldn't do, that's when I realized, okay, we can leverage this person to reach more students. And then from there, we started working online with students as well.
Nice.
To reach students like who couldn't physically come to the campus.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if people couldn't physically come to the campus, where do you think the furthest one of your customers was from? Like, where were you tutoring these people?
Yeah, so we're located in Ontario, Canada. So BC, which is a 7-hour flight west of here. We work with students there, students in the Caribbean, like Jamaica, and the furthest one would have been like Dubai.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had someone in Dubai who wanted to actually come to our university, and they found us, and they're like, "Okay, I want to work on my English." So we just basically helped them work on their English. That person spoke Arabic. I don't speak Arabic, so I found someone who speaks Arabic and English fluently, and then they work together.
Amazing.
Yeah, the time difference was a challenge, but they made it work out. Yeah.
Do you know how they found you? I'm interested to know.
Yeah, they found it through the website. So they actually, on my website that I ended up creating, there's a form. So you basically fill it out, hit submit, and I get back to them.
Yeah.
And like I remember seeing someone put Dubai, and I'm like, this can't be real. Like, so how did they find my contact? But when I emailed them back, they replied back, and they were a legit person. So we're like, okay,
amazing.
let's just see, get this set up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this question you may have already touched, but what do you think are your most significant milestones?
So the big one was getting to my 1 year.
Yeah.
Because in the first year, it was like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to price anything. So when I got to the 1 year, it made me feel confident because a lot of people are just like, how are you going to study tutoring company and you're not a certified teacher? Have you taught before? Did you go to teachers college? And there's so much questions being asked where I was like, I don't know. I don't know. But I just kept going. So when I got to the 1 year mark, I was just like, okay, at least I can answer these questions now.
Yeah.
Second milestone was being able to not work with only with adults but with children, because as a parent, or as like when parents come to me, they're literally trusting the future of their child in your hands. That's a lot of pressure. So like if I mess up, then their child can't progress.
Right.
And then the next couple of milestones was getting online. Online was a big struggle for a lot of people because they're just like, how are you gonna make sure my child is actually learning? That you're not there,
Yeah.
right? So being able to put out a plan to show parents that students can learn and take initiative was the next one. And then the last one I would say was we recently, in the last couple of years, reached over 800 plus students from the time we started.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I just remember one day I was going through, I'm like, I wonder how many students we've worked with.
Yeah.
And in my head I had such a lower number. And then when I checked, I was like, wow, it was like 800 plus. So those are students including students who want help with just like one assignment, like a one-time assignment. But the majority of our students, when they stay with us, it was for a year.
Yeah.
So they stayed with us for the full like academic year, and then they would continue. So we had a lot of repeat students who've been with us for like 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Students who were being tutored by us and then became tutors for us. Yeah. So
Wow.
like, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me some of your favorite student success stories.
Okay. There was
If you could highlight a couple.
a funny one. There was one where a student, they came from England. So when they come from England, their accent was different from what I speak. So whenever they would speak to me, they would use words like rubbish bin and so
Right.
things that I wouldn't understand. And I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
Or they say boot and we say trunk of a car.
Okay.
So they would, so they use things differently. But what was good about this story is when they came here, England created, for what I understand, the language English. So when they come here and then they're reading and they're seeing words and people are trying to correct them, the teacher would actually dock them marks because they wouldn't say words correctly. But their counter argument is like, well, I actually come from England. This is how we say things.
Yeah.
So I was working with them, and they weren't doing too well on their tests and their assignments. So I kind of showed them a different way of how to answer their questions from the first session I did with them. So I did their first session with them. The next day they had a test, and they aced the test. The teacher thought they cheated.
Wow.
That's what ended up happening. So that's what the teacher ended up thinking. So they come back. And I remember they were crying in our next assessment, and I looked at them, well, show me the test. And I saw the test, and they got perfect. I'm like, why are you crying? What's going on?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, my teacher thought I cheated. And I said, okay, but why did they think that? Because I did so well.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, so what's going on now? Like, they want me to rewrite it. And I said, okay, we'll just rewrite it. They were mad. They were mad, but I understood it. So they rewrote it. And there was bonus questions on this one.
Yeah.
And not only did they get perfect, they got both the bonus questions right.
Yes, that's
so
amazing.
that
Good
was
for them.
probably like the most memorable story that I have.
Yeah.
And the teacher ended up calling me to verify that I was actually tutoring them. Because they're like, yeah, I'm
Wow.
working with this guy named Luke, and the teacher called me. I remember getting the call. I'm like, yeah, you're the one that thought you cheated, right? I'm like, how do you feel now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other memories or stories you want to share?
I guess the more recent one is like kind of going through this pandemic, I've taken a toll on a lot of students.
Yeah.
So working online, a lot of students when they're forced to go online, they didn't really know what to do. Like they're already doing bad in their class,
Yeah.
and they go online and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna do worse. So which ended up happening with them, but when they end up working with us, it's a bit different because there's not 20 kids at once in ours. It's
Yeah.
either 1 to 3 students,
Yeah.
and they got enough attention and they started doing better. So we had some students now who feel much better actually going to university because they know how they think and how things work in university. Through this pandemic, it's kind of like they've been forced to go from this grade 10 to 12 role of having a teacher with you versus university where the professor's not necessarily with you along the way.
Yeah.
So that's, there's a few students who've gone through that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a business owner, what do you think has been the biggest obstacle for you?
Biggest obstacle, I would say the biggest obstacle was in the beginning was other tutoring companies, to be honest, and it's really changed since then. But I just remember working with students and I knew what the market price was. So let's just say the market price is $40 an hour for tutoring.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're gonna come into a market, you want to undercut the price, but deliver a better service. That's how you get in. And then once you get the number of students you need, then you can do whatever you like with your prices.
Yeah.
And that really upset a lot of tutoring companies because their students, I didn't go to them and take them away, but their students heard about us and they came to our company.
Yeah.
And I remember I was sitting like in a Tim Hortons one time, and the guy I never even knew, he came up to me. I won't say the tutoring company who he owned, but the tutoring company that he owned, but he yelled at me. I remember he was very upset.
Really?
He's like, I'm going out of business because of you. You're this guy. I remember seeing you. And I sat down with him, and I remember we ended up working out a deal, like a kickback deal or something.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just him who felt that way. There's other companies who were really upset. And in defense, I would say, hey, look, if I'm offering a lower price, but doing a better service, they're not coming to me because of the lower price. They're coming to me because of the better service.
Yeah.
And their friends are telling them that. So that's kind of where my biggest struggle was in the beginning, and just kind of letting everyone know, like, hey, there's a lot of students who need help. In fact, there's so many tutoring companies here that cannot even reach out to all these students.
Yeah.
So there's no point of us trying to fight over these students. Let's just see how many students we can help.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I approached it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you think would be some advice you'd give as a business owner to other business owners or people looking to start their business?
I would say this, try to divide and conquer as much as possible. So when you start out, you're the technician, you're the manager, you're the entrepreneur. The technician does the actual work of tutoring for my company. The manager is the one that schedules the tutors, speaks to the parents, and the entrepreneur is basically just trying to find new leads, try to work with other businesses.
Yeah.
So as fast as you can, if you can just branch out and hire other technicians, so in my case, hire other tutors, hire other managers to take care of the tutors, and just be the pure entrepreneur of doing the marketing and finding other companies to work with, that is the best strategy to use. Don't try to do everything at once. You'll burn yourself out and your growth will be very slow.
Yes, burnout is very real.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are the next 5 or even 10 years for Luke's Taylor Tutoring look like?
Yeah, so we're starting to work on this automated process, and basically what we want to do is not limit the process to a parent calling in and see if a tutor is available or doing an assessment. I want parents to be able to go to our website, being able to type in a survey, probably like a 5-minute survey, and then it will find a tutor for them. Very quick turnaround time. But then again, if they really want to speak with someone like myself or anyone else in the company, they have the option to call. So I want them to give the option to call in, get price in, get the service in that they think they need, and also be able to do that very quickly through like clicking on a computer. And then have a bunch of tutors ready, educators ready who are enthusiastic to work with these students.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, well before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to talk to us about or let us know?
Yeah, I just like the message out for the students I want to say is just because you do bad in a test, it doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you a student that can work on things. And I think a lot of students when they're working through all grades is that they do bad in a test and they think they're a bad person because they did bad on this test, which leads to things like academic depression, things where like people like to give up on themselves.
Yeah.
So I just want students to be able to separate that there's the personal life, who they are, and the student life.
Yeah.
And the student life isn't going too well, it doesn't make your personal life or you a bad person.
Yeah.
And if they can separate that, then they can work on themselves separately. So then that way they can perform better.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think people definitely need to hear that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking to me.
Yeah.
Congratulations on 10 years, and
Thank
I
you.
look forward to seeing what you have next.
I appreciate that. Thank you.